Hello everybody, my name is Benji, and welcome back to Dyson Sphere Program, where last time we finished up green science and got that fully automated. We redid our science setup here at the pole, and we started a whole ton of different research items. And we're almost done with the ones that I queued up last time, which this was the last one that I queued up last time. So I started two more off camera just because they're movement speed and they're purple science only, which will give us a good buffer of green science for what I want to do next, which does involve you guys. Today, what I want to try, emphasis on the word try, to focus on is getting to the artificial stars and getting some dark matter or antimatter fuel rod. Dark matter, antimatter, is there really a difference? Yes, there is, but I'm not going to get technical on that. I do want to get some antimatter fuel rods because they have 7.2 gigajoules of energy, which is perfect for personal fuel, and it'll also solve some of our power issues that we're running into now that we're using the spotlight mining technology and a couple of other drone-related activities, and we're only going to scale up and up and up from here. So in order to do that, we're going to need the planetary ionosphere utilization, which essentially we can put graviton lenses into a, into one of these things, the ray receivers, and no matter where it is on the planet, it'll always get its max power output. It'll just bend the light around the ionosphere in order to harvest the energy. So we're going to go on ahead and queue that. And then the Dirac conversion mechanism allows us to switch the graviton lenses and switch the ray receivers to production mode instead of power mode, and they will draw power from the Dyson swarm in order to create one hydrogen and one antimatter, or dark matter, I forget which, and it won't let me see which one is which. So we're going to go on ahead and queue that. Or rather, it allows us to create these critical photons. That's what the thing on the right of that production is, and then on the left is the hydrogen and the antimatter. And then, both of those, one hydrogen and one antimatter, it's actually perfect. It's a perfect recipe. One of each goes into the antimatter fuel rod, so there's no waste in the entire thing, and I love that. It's super duper easy. But then there's also these annihilation constraint spheres, which are the processors and the purple tubes. Granted, we don't need a ton of them per second, so I'm not going to make a ton of them per second. I might make one per second in order to get these fuel rods, because we only need one annihilation constraint sphere every 24 seconds to make two antimatter fuel rods. And then obviously the artificial star will just allow us to use them in our power. So that'll be all that we want to get through today. I'm going to let the research go, and then after the research is done, we will activate the artificial star production in the mall. We already have that prepared, as I showed a couple episodes ago. We're going to make a production line for the annihilation constraint spheres. And then on a different planet, we're going to make a harvesting area for the critical photons, and then the critical photons will come back to here in order to make the antimatter and the hydrogen, which will go into our antimatter fuel rods with, you know, all of the stuff that we have on planet here, and then that will go into our artificial stars in order to produce power, as well as going into our inventory so that we can also have power while we explore throughout the rest of the stars. And then next time, we're going to start delving into the vertical launching silo, which I might honestly just queue that. That way we can have a couple of them being made. And then the small carrier rockets. And then the Dyson Sphere strain stress system, which will increase our node latitude limit by 15 degrees. But I'll talk about that more when we're actually designing our Dyson Sphere. and actually designing our production technology to be able to make our Dyson sphere. What I want to do for the Dyson sphere, just to give you guys a little bit of a peek of what I'm planning, is I want to have a universe, or not a universe, a solar system out among the stars, like maybe Rita, because of the sulfuric acid ocean, and because of the fact that it's got a little bit of everything. Or probably not Goldilocks, honestly. I'm going to try to look for something with the sulfuric acid ocean, because that's going to make sulfuric acid super duper easy to get and super duper easy to have for production, because we're going to need a lot of titanium alloy, and that sulfuric acid as an oil product is annoying. But we're going to look for another universe that we can harvest and just make our production sector and have the entire solar system, like an entire solar system, dedicated entirely to making the small carrier rockets, which I need to actually go find, entirely dedicated to making the small carrier rockets and solar sails. That way we don't have to make any of the extra production here. We can just ship the small carrier rockets and the solar sails back to our Assad Australis system here, and we can make a Dyson sphere around Assad Australis. Then we can paste down the same blueprint that we use for Assad Australis, and we can make a Dyson sphere in Goldilocks and a Dyson sphere in Lambda Muscae, and so on and so on and so forth. Once we have a Dyson sphere construction blueprint, which yes, I will be doing a Dyson sphere construction blueprint, all we have to do is make a solar system dedicated to making those Dyson sphere parts in order to ship them to all of our other solar systems and just make a Dyson sphere automatically with no extra thought behind it whatsoever. And that is going to be a lot of fun to do. But in order to get there, we need more power, we need more research, we need more of a lot of things. So I'm just going to let this research run, and then we will be back shortly with all of our results, and we'll start moving on with today's objective. I'll be back. So I walked away from the computer for a minute to go do something while all of the research processed. That way, because I don't really have anything else to do at the moment. And then I remembered we talked a while ago about upgrading this so that it's no longer relying purely on hydrogen byproducts, because we're not really making a whole lot of hydrogen byproducts at the moment. And yeah, yeah, it would probably be a good thing to do. We're going to keep this around and set it to demand, because of the fact that we are still making some byproduct from our graphene system down here with the fire ice, but we're not making a lot. We're really not making a lot. So, a little bit of a detour today. We're going to go all the way back to the basic red science, and we're going to upgrade our current red science so that we can actually get it flowing a little bit nicer than this. And I'm just going to do that by starting up a brand new blueprint. I'm not going to try to modify that blueprint that we have there at all. Also, do I really need this little piece of crude oil? Because there's a lot that I haven't harvested yet, and I'm not exactly suffering for crude oil at the moment, so I think we're just going to flatten it. And yes, there is a way that you can flatten it. Vein restore, vein bury. And we are, in fact, going to bury the crude oil vein. Goodbye, crude oil vein. So I'm going to go take a look at some of the recipes. I am going to use a normal planetary logic station for this, just so that it's more accessible for you guys in the early game. and I'm going to take a look at some recipes off camera, but I'm going to tell you the recipes I'm going to look at. So Red Science uses graphite and hydrogen. And the oil process, plasma refining, gives us the hydrogen and the light oil. But then with the X-ray cracking, we can turn that hydrogen and light oil into more hydrogen and graphite. So there should be a way between these two recipes, not this one, but these two recipes, to get hydrogen and graphite out of this system at a ratio that satisfies the red cubes. So I'm going to take a look at the ratios on that. I have an idea of how it should probably work, and we're going to see if it actually does work, and I'll be back momentarily with the results. So I think I have found a solution, and it's not coming from oil, actually. It's coming from the light oil. Because if we take a look at this recipe, for the red cubes, we want 1 hydrogen and 1 graphite. We want equal amounts of hydrogen and graphite coming out of the system at the same rate. When we take a look at this recipe, we get 3 hydrogen and 1 graphite. 2 of those hydrogen go back into the system to start the process again with the light oil. It combines with the light oil. So in theory, what we should be able to do is, well, first of all, that means we can't use this recipe, because if we use this recipe, we're going to have extra hydrogen. And we're not going to have anything that we can do with that extra hydrogen. It'll be a byproduct, and that's going to be gross. So, in theory, we'll just need a little bit of hydrogen to start this process. And then after this process is started, it will simply cycle itself through, so long as we constantly supply it with the light oil, which we're more than able to do with this reforming refine alternate recipe, which uses the coal to get rid of the hydrogen byproduct and just get us the petroleum oil. So if we take the refined oil and the hydrogen, put this to storage and drop it down, and then we'll keep this one at demand and keep it there. And then we don't really even need... I'm gonna have it be the storage just in case, I think. And then we'll do the proliferator as well, and we'll go on ahead and demand that. And then let's take a look at those ratios again. So for our red science, I'm going to tab out for a second. We need 6 energetic graphite and 6 hydrogen per second. So in order to get that 6 and 6, this gives us 1 of each every 4 seconds. So we need 4 machines to get 1 per second. And in order to get 6 times 4 would be 24 of these X-ray cracking machines in order to get that ratio properly. So I don't have any labs on me, but we'll probably do the labs at the end. Actually, can we even do the labs at the end? I think we can. We'll just have to run a belt. So 24 would mean 12. However, do want to make this 1 buffer. That way we can have the light oil coming out, and then the hydrogen and the hydrogen coming out. We'll want to make this the X-ray cracking alternate recipe. And then I suppose what we can do is we can let the energetic graphite come down this way. and then have the hydrogen on a belt going the other way and depositing back in. Where we have the hydrogen, I'll use these. Hydrogen, energetic graphite, and then we put the hydrogen back in to the system, as well as having another line here for hydrogen going in, like this. And if my theories are correct, then this should work properly. And it'll take the hydrogen that's produced by the system and prioritize feeding it back into the system before sending it back out the front through here. And then we can simply extend this, because it'll be, well, let's take a look here. Artificial stars, finished research. Just shift enter. That's not gonna leave any room for power. Will this leave room for power? That'll leave room for power. Good. And then we just need 12 on either side to get the 24, and then the labs at the end. So I'm gonna set all of this up, and we'll see if that actually works the way that we're expecting it to. Now, the only obvious flaw with this system is that it is long. This system is very long, and I probably could have made it not as long if I had not made it on a map border, and I could have just taken this 6 and just put them up here. But, assuming my math is correct and assuming I'm not being stupid, this system will work. I just need to clear that. And that'll be fine. Actually, I'll go on ahead and bump both of you to storage. That way I can just take you... Oh, well. You I can't really do anything with. Uh-oh. Okay, it just went in my inventory. I was really worried for a second. I was like, uh-oh, where'd those go? Where'd they go? Is there even anything that I can use the graphite for? Does this use graphite? No. Like, I legitimately don't know anything that uses graphite off the top of my head. I can't really think of anywhere to put it except into the smelting system. But as you can see, that's already, you know, nice and good and backed up. I did not think this through. So at this point, we're just waiting on hydrogen to jumpstart the system, which I can do myself just by grabbing a couple hundred out of there and plunking it in. And then we will get to see if this system actually works. So the way that I have it going right now, I guess maybe I should I get rid of these? I don't know if I should get rid of these. I'm also gonna set this to storage. The way that I have it set is that the hydrogen compiles itself here, and then I forgot to set the filter, but it output priorities to go to the red science. And then the red science just, you know, gets its whole stuff done. And proliferation is included. And according to my hypothesis, this should just be correct. Because once this line backs up, it'll get exactly enough hydrogen going around the loop-de-loop. In theory. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn that alarm on. That way, if it stops working, it'll let me know that it's no longer working, and it'll yell at me. There. And as far as I'm aware, that's red science done and dealt with. I'll just put a couple more of the proliferation juice into there. And find somewhere that I can put... I found somewhere! I found somewhere I can put the stuff! I put the stuff there. Alright, we're good. And then it's all getting proliferated, and it's going into our research chamber. This is good. This is good. This is good, this is good, this is very good. And the vertical launching silo is done. Okay. So that should be that, all good, done, and dealt with. I'm saying should too much, but I don't care. Our next issue is deuterium. This episode is turning into something that it wasn't supposed to turn into. What's wrong with you? What's your problem? Alright, let's take the min load of vessels down to 50% on this guy. Because it's obviously having a bit of an issue. I don't know why that one is being so buggy with itself, and it's just not producing deuterium at rates that are acceptable. So let's see here. What are you? You're the annihilation constraint spheres, so you are the artificial star. And that means you are the vertical launching silo. Correct? Correct. There. So those are both done. So let's take a look at what needs to be done for the annihilation constraint sphere. And then we'll also take a look at what needs done for the critical photon next, because the critical photon is a fantastic beast in and of itself. There, I can pull up the production recipe here, question mark? Yeah. The mass energy storage, there we go, antimatter, that's what it is, antimatter. Antimatter and hydrogen, moving on to the thing that we're finally actually meant to be doing today. I think honestly, we'll go on ahead and we will do this recipe first. And the way that we're gonna need to do that, I was initially thinking about doing it like I was talking about on another planet. However, we're essentially barely keeping up as is with our deuterium and our strange matter and everything else on this planet. And if I remember correctly, we're making 2 of these per second rather, and we're using 1.5 for our green science. We're making green science. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot. We're making green science. We're making green science, guys. That means we can just clear that and have it be green science instead. Local demand, remote storage. We can have this be green science. That way, we can clear this recipe, and we can have it be this recipe instead. Perfection. And then I'll just take everything else off the belt. So we have 0.5 graviton lenses left over in order to produce our antimatter stuff, our critical photons. These things. The critical photons. So let's take a look at how that's gonna work. So if we take this guy, and we take a handful of these. And we do photon generation. And we put in some graviton lenses. 0.1 per minute. So that's what? 1 every 10 minutes? Yes. That's 1 every 10 minutes. Continuous receiving. Did I research the thing that lets us bend it around? Yeah, the ionosphere utilization. Application, extend to the top of the atmosphere. It allows more time to receive high energy gamma rays in a day-night cycle, improving the continuous work process. So yes, that is working properly. And if I remember properly, I'm just gonna grab it. I'm gonna go somewhere that it can't possibly attach to our power grid. Because I'm pretty sure, yeah, it just operates by itself. And we get roughly 5 per minute for each one of these that we do. So if we have 5 per minute and we do our own, wrong button, and we do our own separate system, 5 per minute is 1 every 12 seconds, which would mean that we need 12 of them to run one of these. We're not gonna nearly have 12 of them, don't worry. So we'll probably end up having 6 supplied by the graviton lenses, given the fact that it needs 1 every 10. If we have 6, that would be 6 every 10 seconds, which would be roughly 1 every half a second. Roughly, very roughly. And then that'll all be run by one miniature particle collector, which is fantastic. And that'll give us the antimatter and the hydrogen required for the antimatter fuel rods. And then we can just slap together one of these. So 12, that's 1 every 2 seconds. We'll be getting 1 every second, essentially, so we can run a bunch of these, and we're probably only going to need 1 per second of the annihilation constraint spheres. So that's good. I think all of our ratios have worked out properly, and we're good. So let's find a space to actually do this. And I don't think there's going to be a better space than up here, where all the rest of our production for this kind of crap is. So, let's go on ahead, and at this point, you should definitely have interstellar logic hubs. Like, just saying, you should have them if you're at this point. So I'm going to make my blueprint thinking with these in mind, because we have 5 available products. And then we're going to do graviton lenses as a desired requirement. And we are, in fact, lacking on power. Is that still a deuterium issue? No, it is not still a deuterium issue. And this is still working properly at the moment, which is a good sign. That is a good sign. So let's go on ahead and grab these guys. And I should be able to put them here, right next to each other like that. And then have a splitter. I placed the splitter in the wrong place. No, I did place these correct. I just placed the splitter wrong. Okay. So the splitter goes there. Splitter splits things. Graviton lenses. And this can get placed where? There. And I said I was gonna run 6 of them. Okay, so I can't have them right next to each other. That's perfectly fine. And then I am super lazy, so we're gonna do this. Why? Or not, we're not gonna do that. Alright, I'm gonna get this set up and get a couple of other things set up before we move on to the annihilation constraint spheres, and I'll show you guys the finished product of the energy construction blueprint that I'm currently working on. Be back here in just a second. Alright, so for the most part this is done. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a couple of artificial stars into the blueprint as well. So that'll take from the antimatter fuel rod first before it goes back in to this system here. And then we'll do antimatter fuel rods here. And I'm honestly going to make it a local supply and a remote supply. Actually, I think I'll make it a local storage and just make it a remote supply. And then we are going to do warpers for this. That way it's local, local demand, remote supply. Because if we do it that way, we'll be able to send these up into other systems, other solar systems, in order to have power in these other solar systems. Now, the issue is the fact that our grid is suffering ever so slightly, which is why I wanted to put some of the artificial stars in this blueprint, which I will do in a moment. But the last thing that we need to do before we can kickstart this entire system is the annihilation constraint spheres, and these are super trivial. I'm only going to make 1 per second, but I'm actually not going to need 20 machines to make 1 per second, despite the fact that it literally says, hey, guess what? You get 1 of these every 20 seconds, therefore you need 20 in order to make 1 per second. I'm going to completely and entirely bamboozle the thing by using our automation assembling machines Mark III, which have a 1.5 times production speed, which would mean that we only need, if I remember correctly, it would be 75% of the machines. So we only need, let's call it 14 machines in order to run our system. Because if it's 1 every 20 seconds, 1 every 20 seconds is 0.05 per second. Multiply that by 1.5 is 0.075 per second. And if we want to do that, I think that would be 1 over 16? No, 1 over 14. 1 over 13? Yeah, it's closer to 1 over 13, so we only need 14 machines, if my math is correct, in order to actually run the system properly. So I'll take those assembly machines Mark III. Autosaves are going to start taking a while, by the way, just a heads up on that one. And we're going to come back over this way. We're not going to go the whole way over there. We are still leaving some space here, but we can do it up over top. We can put it here, probably? Yeah, probably. If we only need 14 machines, we only need 7 on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And same thing, 7. And it's just another one of those 2 inputs, 1 output. It's the purple tubes and the processors, and then we get our annihilation constraint spheres. It is that simple, so I'm just gonna build it yet again, and we will be back shortly. I've actually gotten really, really quick at building those when I'm not talking in the middle of it. Now, the purple tubes are literally right there, so those are already here. The particle containers, I believe they're called. The processors, however, are all the way down at our little polar logistics hub. And yep, we are in fact out of power at the moment. We're out of battery backups and our power is suffering. But we do have annihilation constraint spheres. Is that a milestone? We're gonna have it now. It's not a milestone, evidently. I'm just gonna take the first batch of that, yeah, the first batch of 14, and shove them in here. And hopefully that gets us enough. Yes, it gets us enough to make a couple of our antimatter fuel rods. So I just want to see one antimatter fuel rod, and then we'll wait for a star to produce as well, and we'll end looking at our artificial stars. So come on, give me the fuel, give me the goods. And if I'm thinking about this properly, is this closer? I think this one's closer than this one is. It says minus 100 on it. This one does not say plus 100 on it. So I guess this was the one. Are our artificial stars working? There they go. Artificial stars are currently being produced. Antimatter fuel rod. Antimatter fuel rod has also been produced. So now I don't have to worry about that pesky alarm anymore. I can just toss one of those into my mouth, and I just have a lot of power immediately. That is one of my favorite things to see happen, I have to say. Because now I literally just have 6.9 gigajoules in me. That's over two full charges. Blech. And there is our first artificial star. Looks like there are more being produced. Oh, speak of the devil, there's another one that just got produced. Give. And give, because I want more fuel rods, so that we can actually see a star activate. So let's get back. It's up this way. This one, right? Yes, this one. And go to power. It's actually not under power, it's under Dyson Sphere program, which is odd, but I'm not complaining. And there's the stars. And give me fuel rods. We've seen this system work, so we know that it works. I'm just gonna place one on the belt, and then we will see the star activate. Artificial star. So the artificial stars give us 72 megawatts each. Literally 72 each. I'm pretty sure the fusion generators, what's the fusion generators? The fusion generators give 150 megawatts each, which in and of itself is a huge step up of the thermal power plants, which are 2 megawatts each. And these things, which are kilowatts and 2.4 megawatts. I mean, the megawatts aren't bad, but I hate the geothermal power stations. I do. I hate them with a passion. But let's see if we can have... Why do we have more hydrogen than we do dark matter, antimatter? Oh, because it's all in the other one. Well, why is that? That's stupid. It's extremely stupid. Anyway, let's just wait for... we don't have to wait. I'm just gonna do this. Bada bing, bada boom. We have 2 stars. But that is gonna be all for today, so thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. But without further ado, adios, sayonara, au revoir, hasta la vista, das vidania, wiedersehen, ciao, and goodbye. Please have yourselves all a fantastic rest of your day. Get some sleep if you need to. Don't forget to stay hydrated. This video is in the bag, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later, y'all.